Hello everybody, I hope you are having a fantastic day. Check out what I found at an e-waste place. This is a Tandy 2500 SX, and I've never had one of these machines, and hopefully that isn't a description on the front. So taking a quick look at this bad boy, you can tell that it is missing the floppy drive, it is missing the power button, it is missing the 5 1/4 inch drive. It has some scuffs on top, and that may just be the beginning because you're going to look at it for the first time with me. On the front it said, I thought it said POS, but it actually could say DOS back here. Not really sure. Wow, that is serial number 157. That seems really, really low. That's kind of crazy. So anyway, on the back, we've got just a little bit of rust. I mean, nothing too out of the ordinary for these Tandys of this vintage. But we do have what looks like, hopefully that's a VGA port. I'm guessing that this is one of the ones that had some pins blocked off, and somebody used this to adapt to that. We've got a standard parallel port, standard serial port, PS2 keyboard and mouse, and your mic and speaker things. So I think we got to crack this thing open and see what we got. All right, so let's take the cover off. I've never touched a 2500 before. So I've got a friend that has one. I don't know that he's actually announced that he has one, so I'm not going to spoil that for him. But yeah, so the only thing I'm hoping for is that there's no Varda battery, and this is not a standard case, so the odds of replacing the motherboard aren't very good. But we're going to pull this cover off and see what we got. All right, first thing we have is what looks like part of the power switch, I'm guessing. And yeah, I guess that's a power LED for the front, so that's good. If nothing else, I can use this to 3D model to make a fix, so definitely don't want to lose that. We have what looks like a little audio cable for a CD-ROM drive. And we've got a modem. Let's see, this is the complete PC modem. And I'm guessing 2400 baud. I don't know. I'd guess 2400 baud. Ooh, with that switch. So maybe it is fax modem. So maybe like a 2496, something like that. I'm going to put it off to the side. Maybe I'll look it up. All right, so we have a 40-pin cable. I'm guessing this thing had some kind of CD-ROM drive in it, judging by the missing bay. All right, over on this side, we've got 3 16-bit slots, which is good. The other computers I've had in this form factor have been only had a single slot. And we do have some rust around here, some things that we got to work on, but nothing too scary. These Tandys of this vintage were known to kind of rust a little bit. So I don't think I have a key for it, and it looks like I don't need one. And so the entire power supply thing lifted off, and we're just going to set that off to the side right now because this is pretty gnarly. It is good to have at least the power supply connector so that we can get a pin out. These little pins here are bent, so I can't just take this out. I don't really know why they would do that. So we've got let's see here. So we do have 2 power connectors, and I honestly have no idea if this is one of those floppy drives that sends power through the cable. I'm guessing not. I think this is probably a little bit new for that. For those of you that don't know, some of the Tandys actually send the power to the 3.5 inch drive through the cable. And so if you try to hook up a regular floppy drive, you can either kill it or kill the motherboard. So I don't think that's the case here. We're going to get this cable out of the way. All right. And then we've got what appears to be a standard IDE cable here for some kind of internal hard drive. And then we've got, these look like 1 megabyte. Yeah, 1 meg by 9, I'd guess. So it probably has 2 megs of RAM. And let's try to find the processor here. What is that? Is that Headland? Oh, okay. It's got one of the little 386 SXs down here on the motherboard. So we have a 386 SX16. Okay, so this was equivalent to my very first computer. The very first computer I had was a 386 SX16. And I had 1 megabyte of RAM in mine, and it looks like this one may have 2. We'll see. Could have 512K, but I highly doubt that. I've seen this before on the Tandy ones where they have these little 4 meg and 8 meg things here. And I don't know if that's for some kind of like DOS on ROM or something like that. Seems like something Tandy would have done. We've got a 2032 battery, so no Varda. No idea what these things are here. Maybe some kind of power regulator appears to be. Yeah, not a whole lot to look at here except for a bunch of dust. So I think we just go ahead and see if we can at least get a post out of it. All right, so a couple things I was thinking about as I was setting this up here. I have a new VGA capture thing that I've never tried, and I could, I could plug it in and try it on something else first, but that would require planning on my part. So we're just gonna wing it. So there's a chance that even if this computer does work, I may not be able to capture it, and I may think it doesn't work. So that could be kind of anticlimactic. And second of all, I realized that the power switch is broken, so I'm gonna have to try to figure out how to turn this thing on. All right, well, first of all, I better plug in the power into this grungy old thing. And then, oh yeah, I don't know if you can see that. It's got just a standard power switch back here, so hopefully I don't shock myself. And we'll turn it on. And do we see anything on the screen? I don't see anything on the screen. I got nothing. All right, let me see what I can do. All right, so one of the first things I've learned is that whenever I start one of these projects, I just get a Ziploc bag and throw everything in there. If it's big enough, I'll get a Tupperware, but in this case, I think a Ziploc will be fine. I want to be a little careful with this power LED thing. Not exactly sure what I'm going to be doing with that, but I want to make sure I don't lose it. So I've got all the original parts over there. Then we're going to open this thing up. As you can see, it's pretty filthy. So the first thing we're going to do is get this proprietary power supply off here. Now it looks like, yeah, if I remember right, these things are bent here. So we're going to need to get some lineman's pliers. As far as I can tell, there's no like notch that's just going to let that come out. So let me grab some lineman's pliers, and we're going to bend that tab down. So I want to be a little careful not to mess with the motherboard. Bend that tab down. Hopefully, I didn't bend it too much, but hopefully that'll let me get it out of there. There we go. As you can see, the motherboard is attached to this riser card right here. So we're going to go ahead and pull out the riser card, and then I'll take out the motherboard. There we go. Save the backing plate. This stuff's all going right back in, so I'm not worried about getting that in a Ziploc bag. I'm not keeping the case apart very long. So we'll unplug the speaker, and I'm guessing that's a reset button. We're going to have to cut this little zip tie here carefully. Get those out of the way. Let's get the motherboard out of here. All right, looks like all these little port holder things are, the port screws are holding the things on there. Now you want to be careful when you take these out that you don't bend the sides of the ports, especially the serial port. If you jam this down there, you can actually indent the side of that and make it a little harder to plug things in the future. So we're just going to get these out gently, and then we'll have the case apart. And as you can see here, the reason for that adapter is that Tandy, as was commented today, had a 14 pin or maybe a 13 pin VGA connector where some of the pins were blocked off. And so rather than cutting the cable, people would just put an adapter on there. So you'd use a standard monitor. So let's go ahead and get all these out, and we'll pull the motherboard. All right, so we had, I think, 6 screws on the motherboard plus all the face plates, and now we're able to get the motherboard out of here. And it looks like this was this looks like something somebody made with, like, plastic from their kitchen, but this is really how it was. I've seen another one of these things apart, and they all seem to have this plastic in here. And I guess good thing, because we've got some corrosion down here that we'll have to deal with. And that was really common on these Tandy cases. I've seen some of them look just completely brown. So with that going on, I think I'm going to go ahead and take apart the speaker thing, get that out of here, and just get all the plastic off, and we're going to strip this thing all the way down. Now, because I'm stripping this thing down further than I originally expected, I did add a Tupperware to the mix here where I'm going to be able to put these parts for quick assembly, but I don't want to lose anything and mix it up. And I mean, if I can put the original screws back in, I'm going to. The only other plastic we have left is this plate here for this switch, which I don't know that it needs to come out. I'm a little concerned about taking it out. Okay, so I'm pushing in here on the plastic with a spudger, and I was able to just slide the thing right out. There you have it. All right, so since we've come this far, I'm gonna go ahead and take care of this too. So I've got the power supply, which has been plugged in recently. So we wanna be careful. I don't exactly see how that comes out of here. There you go, oh, it slides out, that's not bad. Oh, yep, so these capacitors have not been discharged properly, so you wanna be careful. I don't see any actual leakage or anything, which is a good sign. So I'm just going to clean this up, and I'm going to clean this case and maybe even replace this fan. So let's see what we got. All right, so I started assembling the computer, and I was debating if I wanted to get rid of this adapter, and when I was putting in the standoff for it, it actually snapped off inside the other standoff. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this, and I'm going to fix it by drilling it. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is put a new standoff in here. Like I said, the other one had a bolt snapped off in it, so I'm going to put this in, and this will stop me from putting any undue pressure on the motherboard. And then we're actually going to very carefully drill a hole where the pin should go. And I've got a couple different ways to do this. I've got some hand drills, I've got some tiny drills. I'm going to look at doing this with maybe one of these to start with. And so these things chuck into this little hand drill here. And if nothing else, this will be a pilot hole. Well, there was really no other way that could go down. I don't love reaching around the camera while I'm working, so it just happens. I'm not going to blame you guys, but it's kind of your fault. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a standard drill bit. I do have replacements for those other ones, like the one I just broke, but I'm going to use a standard drill bit, and I'm going to chuck it into a way oversized drill. And I'm just going to go for it. And let's see what we've got now. We might be making some adjustments. Nope, we're good. So a normal cable plugs in, didn't damage this cable. We are good to go. All right, the next problem I want to solve is the RAM. And that's not really a problem. When I first got my 38616, it was sort of equivalent to this. I only had 1 meg of RAM. I believe mine actually had 8 SIM slots, but it came, my 1 meg came with 4 256K SIMs. So I had to make the awful decision. Did I want to go to 2, or did I want to have to throw away an entire meg of RAM to update? And so that was pretty painful, but I wound up, I think, eventually going to 4. I don't like to take these old computers and just try to max them out to the highest amount possible. That's not the goal, so I'm not going to try to cram like 32 megs of RAM in here. Let's look at my RAM collection. Some of this stuff, I think, is from GNU Religion. I think these might be 1 megs. 80 nanoseconds. That feels a bit slow. Let's look and see what else we got. The ones wrapped with yellow paper are definitely from GNU Religion. That's got him written all over it. So this is 8 1 megabyte 30 pin RAM modules. That I kind of want to keep together in case I have something that needs 8 of them. Might as well get a match set. What's this one say here? This is definitely maybe bad. Yeah, I probably shouldn't put that in there. These are three, three chips on them. And usually those were later ones. And so a lot of times they're 1 meg chips. So this is kind of a 60 nanoseconds. So that's actually relatively fast. These are the plastic sockets, and they are notoriously brittle. And so I want to be extremely careful when I am switching out memory, because I do not want to break these sockets. So I'm going to try very carefully to pry, and it's a little hard too because it's under this bar, which I actually could take the bar out. But I'm going to pull these SIMs out, and I'm going to try my best to replace them with other ones that may work. So again, I don't have to pull these out. These are 1 meg SIMs, but if I can get a match set, I'm going to get a match set. So I'm going to try to put these in, and I'll kind of let you know what I come up with. All right, so I knew that this piece here for the power supply switch was broken when I got this, and as you can see, inside the power supply, or outside the power supply, is just a very standard switch. This thing is on every single computer from this era, so there's nothing particularly rare or valuable about this. And in fact, my original plan was to make a 3D printed button for it, and this is literally the first thing I ever designed on Tinkercad, and it was for another computer, for another Tandy, and I made a light up version of it, and it would fit on the end of the button, all that kind of stuff. And the problem actually isn't the size, it's the length. It's getting the switch in the exact position so that it can go back far enough so they can actually turn it off and come out far enough without this thing hitting, and just getting that right, especially when in my case it was completely missing, is kind of a problem. Now this one is a little different because I was expecting it to be kind of more broken, and I thought about making an adapter for it. I thought about doing the whole cornstarch and baking soda, or baking soda and super glue trick or something like that. But honestly, I don't really think it matters that much. I think, look at this, it's kind of got these little wings that ride along the inside. So I'm going to slip this in, and I think it sort of fits on there good enough. Now, I don't want it to slip back this way. So what I'm thinking about doing is actually both zip tying and hot gluing it. And not, as far as for the amount of work I put in everything else, not the most fancy of solutions. But I think, honestly, I could JB weld it, because if I ever needed to take it apart, I'd still be able to get this thing off. And there's nothing holding the switch in the front. But I think as an initial step, I'm going to try to just attach it with hot glue and see how that goes. And so I could do a little bit of super glue on there first, but it's dissimilar plastics. I don't know how that's going to go. And again, as I've said a million times, with hot glue, you can just put a little bit of rubbing alcohol on it and it'll come loose. So again, if I was going to leave this thing in a car for a long time, it might loosen up, but I think I'm going to use the zip tie to add a little bit of mechanical strength, and the glue to sort of add a little bit of chemistry bond. I don't honestly know that the zip tie is going to do anything, and it might actually get in the way. But the thing with the hot glue is that if I do enough layers of it, I can actually sort of make a little bridge out of it. So I can put glue a fair amount of the way down, but what I want to do is make sure that while I'm doing it, that it stays in this very spot. I want to make sure that it's on there and that it doesn't slip to your right, because that would be the worst thing, for it to slip to the right and this thing be able to slide around. So right now that's on there. I wouldn't trust that long term, but it is on there, and that'll give me something to glue to. So I'm going to go ahead and snip this. And again, there's just nothing else going on in this whole part. So I can come down here, I can come out the side, I can go on top, and I'm just not going to damage anything. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Now the place I really want some glue is on that left side, because that is open. So we're going to come in here and we're going to cram some in there. Add another layer. I don't want it there. I'm going to get that back off. But we want to cram some in the left side and come down the pole. Now we're obviously not gluing this far down, but we want to be able to get something to adhere to. And again, I'm going to take that little glob off. All right, so I wouldn't exactly call it my proudest moment or anything like that, but I mean, not bad at all. I think, yeah, I mean, I can give that thing a pretty good pull, and it's not coming off. So I think we've got, yeah, we can push in, we can push out, and it doesn't pull out by accident. So, I mean, that's a good thing. And then, as you can see there, a little bit of alcohol on that cleaned right up. All right, so the next thing I wanted to deal with is this floppy drive hole in the front, and I want to put in one of these little compact flash things. Now, I've tried a few random compact flash adapter holder thingies that I found on Thingiverse, and one of the things, I don't understand why people do this when it comes to 3D printing, and this is just a draft, like I didn't even try to print it with any kind of quality, but one of the things I hate about it is that things have to line up perfectly, and you know, something like this is just really weak, and you're going to be pushing in with a compact flash card and it's just all bendy. That one didn't work. This one is heavier duty, but as you can see here, the holes have to line up perfectly, and they didn't. So I just decided to go ahead and make my own. And what I did was made one, I'll trim it out a little bit, but what I did was, instead of trying to put holes in a very specific place, I made this thing thick and just made it so that I can drill wherever I want those holes to be. And to me, that's the way to go. I don't really know why you have to aim for perfection when you can just do this and drill a hole in it and, you know, get everything lined up perfectly. So I'm going to drill a couple holes in this thing, and I'm going to put a couple of screws in this thing, and then you'll see over here on the side, I flipped it upside down so that these would be reference holes. But what I did was I made sure that where these two holes are in the thing, that there's good meat here. So instead of trying to drive a screw through here and hope the screw holds, I'm going to go ahead and put a machine screw and a nut on it so that we can grab something more cleanly. So I'm going to start putting this thing together, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here's the floppy eject button from the front. It's not perfect. I just kind of eyeballed it. Thought I'd show it to you from this side. Hopefully I won't move the camera. But as you can see there, I just put a little bit of hot glue in there, just enough to hold it in. This thing will be backed up by that chunky adapter, so there's really no reason to push it. It's just kind of there for decoration. Of course, there's no sense in connecting a compact flash card if the computer can't read it, and that's where the sponsor of this video, PCBWay, comes in. You see, a year and a half ago or something, I came up with a project called the $4 XT IDE. I was a big fan of the XT IDE project, but the boards would cost often between $40 and $80 or $100 to get, and the problem was that they had hard drive controllers and all kinds of other hardware built into it. But things like this Tandy have a hard drive controller in them already. They just don't have a way to access the card. So that's where this comes in. And the reason why this is called the $4 XT IDE is because, thanks to PCBWay, you can add these to your cart, set the number to 10, and have them shipped to your door. 10 boards for $5 plus a little bit of shipping. You combine some stuff around, you can get these boards for under $1 each, and then they wind up being pretty cheap to build. You can get an EEPROM from AliExpress or from eBay. You can get a LS688, little resistor network, couple of cheap capacitors, toss on a couple of jumpers, and you are done. You can build this entire thing for under $4. And so that is the beauty of PCBWay. I can get these things built, I can add them to my projects, and if you think about it, it's not really a big deal to buy a $40, $50 card for one computer, but I have 50 retro computers. So all of a sudden that math just doesn't work out, and with projects like this, I can just upgrade these computers. Now, one of the things that I think is also awesome about this project is that I've gone ahead and done all the work to configure the ROMs for you for all the popular applications. Now, one thing to note is that this computer that we're working on now is a 386SX, which actually shares a lot of the architecture with the 286. So when I burn this ROM, I'm going to burn the 286 2-drive version of the ROM, and I'm going to pop it in, no configuration necessary, and the thing's just going to work. So I want to thank PCBWay for helping me keep these computers alive, and I want to encourage you to go over there and pick up some of these because these things are awesome. So I've got the compact flash card mounted over here. You're gonna have to wait to the end to see that. And then I did get the RAM in. Obviously didn't break any slots, which is cool. And then again, this thing has a built-in IDE thing. So there's no reason to use one of the more expensive cards that has an IDE controller built in, because we can take that cable and plug it in to the existing IDE controller like so. And then we just take our card, this part goes to the rear of the PC, and you can put it in any slot you so choose, pop it in, and Lord willing, this thing's gonna boot. So there you have it. This is how the thing turned out. I absolutely love it. As a software developer, I love turning a bug into a feature, so we took that missing floppy drive and turned it into an accessible CF card. It's a little loud like the computers were back in the day. It's got a couple of scuffs on it and stuff like that, but it is mine and I love it. So I want to thank you guys for watching, but I gotta go play some Police Quest.